In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed
Yes.
as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
Of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills.
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy, and this is a special Broads and Books bonus episode.
If you listen to our regular episodes on Wednesdays, you know we tell you about our favorite books based on different weekly themes. We get super nerdy about books.
Super nerdy. And the authors that write the books we love, they get nerdy about books too.
That's what this bonus series is all about.
And today, we are hearkening back, way back to our very first episode.
Back.
The
way back.
Last year. Oh, before Corona, before all of
BC.
this. Yes. Where I recommended Friday Black, a collection of short stories that blew my freaking mind. In this bonus episode, we are talking to the person who did that to me and so many readers, Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah.
We got Nana on Zoom, and he is a fantastic book nerd,
Which
too.
is such a fun thing to discover.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And in this discussion, there's so much more. He talks the betrayal of reading Frankenstein as a kid.
Yeah.
How his writing students don't hold back. How he drives fans to tears.
Mm-hmm.
And who turned him into the ultimate fanboy.
Nana mentions some terrific books, and you'll find all of them in the show notes on your podcast player and our website.
If you subscribe to Broads and Books in your favorite podcast player, you'll get each of these bonus episodes right to you. But you can also find them at our website, broadsandbooks.com.
And now, here's our interview with Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah.
Tell us a little bit. Did you have a favorite book or a couple books as a kid or a teen that you remember?
I'm part of like I consider like the OG Harry Potter generation. So of course that's a huge thing. Bud Not Buddy. There's a book called Bud Not Buddy that I grew up with. And I just remember being like, oh, I love this particular thing for some reason. And it was also sort of about, I don't know, just a young person growing up. I remember The Third Life of Grange Copeland was big, and that was my introduction to Alice Walker, sort of. And it made me realize I was a little older, I was in high school for that, but I realized I liked when author could make me really, really like hate someone and then really, really care and love them, and then maybe go back and forth. Which I think is I'm interested in my work. That's sort of essential humanity that can't be maybe pulled away. But yeah, also just serial sci-fi, like Pendragon series. When I was really young, we, like you said, like these like sort of fantasy serial stuff, and would pass them around. Yeah, so that kind of thing. It was all over the place. I had no sense growing up of like any type of quote unquote literary sort of that whole thing. I just sort of read that what seemed interesting, what came up, and it ended up being pretty broad in terms of genre or whatever.
One of the things that we talk about a lot, or that we hear a lot when people talk about their reading lives, is that they were somewhat stunted at some point in school because of a classic they were forced to read.
Yeah.
And we've talked about how it was Moby Dick for us, but is there a classic that you remember struggling with or thinking like, I'm not connecting with this at all?
The one that jumps into my mind like really quickly was Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty slow book.
It is. It is.
For a monster, for like what you think you're gonna get because of the name.
Takes a long day to get to the monster. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of walking. It's but I can't even say I hated that book. I was pretty early at that time. I was invested in like being a good reader for some reason. Like I liked my English teachers. I forgot this, but I had to go to my school for some. I didn't have to, but I went to my former school for some like let's talk to the kids. And one of my high school teachers was like, "Oh, Nana used to have like the book I was reading at the time for class, like in like the netting of my book bag, so you could see it." And and then she's like, because he wanted people to know he was like well read, you know. And I don't remember like having said it to her, but I was like, that sounds right, you know. So I'm sure there's a time, but Frankenstein I remember as being like sort of I'm forcing myself to push through this.
And you're right, that is such a letdown, especially as a kid. You're like, this is going to be cool. It's going to be monsters, and then it's just boring.
It was just too early for me to have it.
Yeah.
You know, I have if I revisit it now, I'm sure maybe my reading would be different. I was like 15 or 16. You know.
Well, we talk about that sometimes. Sometimes it's such a disservice to give kids some of these books at such a young age because there's nothing to really get into. Yeah.
We haven't trained them to really, really think of reading as something that they can love yet. I feel like you have to build that engagement, that like initial engagement, which requires, I think, meeting them where they're at in terms of like representation and seeing themselves in the work in some way. And so just throwing them into some of these quote unquote canon classics, not only are they not represented, but like the authors might have never even considered them as like where I'm from, even really people. And so like
it's like why are yeah.
So it's definitely it can be a problem for a lot of reasons.
We've had a couple authors say that they feel like they read books later and they thought, oh my gosh, if my younger self had encountered this so that I could have seen myself in literature, how much different that would have been for my trajectory or path, you know, just to have some representation somewhere. And I didn't get that until I was an adult and could seek it out on my own.
Yes.
When you were reading some of the books that you were enjoying or some of the books in class, do you remember having a book that made you think, this is what I want to do? I want to write. I want to do something like this.
There was a big disconnect for a very long time between myself and that kind of idea.
Yeah.
I just had no access really to like the idea that I myself could do that too. It just didn't seem realistic for me, even though one of my high school teachers, like later on in my high school career, brought this author, and she had written a book. It was my first time seeing a real human being that had written a book, and the connection still didn't really quite land, even though I know that in that time period I started writing. So it was almost like this weird double think that was happening, that I knew I liked writing, I was writing, but I hadn't quite been able to think that even humans that are real can be writers, let alone myself. But I thought, but still around that time, a lot of those sort of, the third of Grant Copeland made me feel like something important, you know. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the Harry Potter books made me feel something. A lot of them, like manga I was reading, and that's similar sort of serial fashion with my friends, made me feel something. And it wasn't until college where I started allowing myself to be part of that thing I was feeling. Mm-hmm. Direct or a way I was conscious of.
Yeah, that's a huge step. And we've heard that too, that there is such a, like even when you meet someone who's actually put a book out in the world, there's such a huge amount of steps to get from your brain to thinking that could potentially be you.
And part of the problem is when we characterize authors or people who do craft things, we sort of, in ways of like showing respect and honor, we like make them feel very distant from a normal person. And a lot of my like pedagogy in my classroom, especially, is sort of breaking that down.
Mm-hmm.
I let my students workshop me and let them know like I'm just a person. I'm not like some other thing, because I think it's really important for artists, for art to not be like, you only get to see this final product that's the end of like several years of work.
Yeah.
But I write horrible trash every time to the computer, so it's I think that there's a big disconnect in terms of what the actual process is and what people are imagining, and some of that's getting broken down by the access that social media or whatever has created, but still I think it's important.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had any hard feedback from your students?
Oh, tons. They are really harsh. They're really harsh. I go first. Sometimes I don't tell them it's me.
Oh, that's a good trick.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're. I mean, I've done it once with my high school. I was doing the summer camp thing in like Stanford for high school kids. They were really mean. I told them that they were nice. My college kids they're really nice. Everyone's sort of cool. They know, because for me it's a vulnerability thing, and I like a really round table, and so I like them to know like I too have offered myself in this vulnerable way as a way of fostering that kind of environment across the board. But yeah, I have for sure got. Also, I do in earnest. Like I've got feedback that I take.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not like just an exercise. It's a real thing.
Thinking a little bit about your reading life now, how many books would you say are on your to-be-read pile, and are there a few that you'd be willing to share?
I love this. We get visual aids.
I know.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Some of them I've already read and I'm re-looking at. First, I've already read this, but I was re-looking at it because of No Name. She does a book club, Audrey Lords, my sister outsider. This feels like really good, like right now. Mm-hmm. Or important right now. Then the rest of I'll do one more nonfiction, then the rest of them are fiction. This is Aftershocks. This book is not out yet. It's by Nadia Owusu. I'm gonna have two books that are not out yet, which is very annoying, but I get
I bet you get so many requests, right? For like
the blurb. Yeah, I've read this one already. It's she's a Ghanaian. I'm Ghanaian as well. I'm Ghanaian American author. It's super smart, really sort of heartbreaking good book. And these two I'm trying to get to now. You might have seen this because I think it's getting a lot of the buzz. Is that what they say in the biz? Luster, this book, Luster, the novel.
I haven't seen that being passed around in lists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is great. It's great. I think it's spectacular. I'm actually like, it's just one of those things that like, I get a certain feeling with books that I really love, and it just feels like, you feel inspired and you want to like, I don't know, it makes you want to write. Super, what they're saying is true. What you have heard is true. And then Such a Fun Age. I'm going to read that after Luster.
Do you mentioned a couple that you're reading / rereading right now, but anything you've read lately that's just really surprised you, just kind of blown you away?
Everywhere You Don't Belong kind of goes into that. I hate to comp everything. It reminded me almost like of Dennis Johnson, who I really, really, really love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which a lot of people, I'm sure, try to do, but
mm-hmm.
It was just really, really a solid novel.
How do you normally find your book recommendations?
So many of these get not forced on me, but like it's like they kind of
like blurb
on their way. Yeah, but I'm sort of very behind on that side stuff, and I'm a slow reader. I'm a very slow reader. So
also this getting books must be kind of a nightmare / good thing at the same time.
I'm easily overwhelmed. Yes.
Yeah.
And I live in New York, like I said. Like I don't know if you can see my bookshelf, but like it's overstuffed. But it's a good problem to have.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I imagine you're getting a lot of blurb requests because of Friday Black, and we We recommended it in our very first episode, actually, last year.
Cool.
No, so you mentioned some of the things that you read as a kid, a lot of sci-fi, fantasy, that kind of stuff that probably, I imagine, influenced some of Friday Black. But anything else that you can think of, any other books or authors that you really think influenced some of your writing?
Yes. By the time I was really, really getting serious, there's a couple that I think at the time where I was like deciding this I could do what to do. I have certain people in my mind that, George Saunders, who's one of my professors and good friends now. ZZ Packer, who wrote Drinking Coffee Elsewhere.
Yeah.
That was a super important collection for me to read. I first read the story Brownies in college. So that was big for me. It's like Jesus' Son was another one. Which is, some of these are like every person with MFA type titles, but Jesus' Son was
together, right? Yeah.
I liked Jesus' Son a lot. Because of the way I'd read, I hadn't necessarily been exposed to. I don't think people would call him experimental or whatever, but like if you've read a certain type of thing and you get exposed to him, it suddenly feels very different. Mm-hmm. And like the possibilities sort of felt open. And then, of course, stuff like Song of Solomon. And then going back to Their Life of Granger Copeland was like, oh, like there's like, I think I see like something that matters to me and something that this can be used in this way that's purposeful and I don't know, and different. So those are some of the people that I think of most, especially when I was like deciding that I was going to consider myself like, this is something I'm overtly in my own mind trying to do.
Yeah.
At the end of each one, we like to ask kind of these 5 questions that are a little bit maybe off the reading topic. But first, we want to know, what was your weirdest, funnest, most touching, whatever you want to use, fan interaction?
Oh, man.
We have heard letters from jail. We have heard people getting
tattoos,
accosted and accused of having too much trauma. We've heard a whole bunch of stuff.
I'm going to go into the good side because I don't even want my brain to go into the weird side. And there's some weird things and like somewhat inappropriate behavior. Ooh. It's like I said, the internet stuff just makes things weird. This is just coming to my mind because it's happened other times, but this time it happened in a way that was more surprising to me because this is my first book. So it's weird if like someone sees you and like bursts into tears, Oh,
wow.
And that something happened a couple of times, but in Parnassus, one of the booksellers there who actually was like kind of running the event was super nice. And I'm now forgetting her name like an asshole. But to be fair, I think they have a wine bar in there, or I think she wasn't 100% sober, but she was like crying, and I was like, oh,
Yeah, how do you respond to that? Like, what?
It's a lot to respond to, and also like I had to realize, oh, she's not like kidding. It seems like a joke or something. Again, that was earlier on in like the tour. That was probably November. The book definitely had been out 3 months. So she had gotten it earlier though. She's a bookseller. She had gotten early, but it was a lot. So that was something. But then, yeah, that was a ton. On Instagram, I have a lot of like cool interactions. People like say super nice things. I become very like hyper vigilant about messages and stuff because so often it's requiring you to do something and it's stressful for me and my anxiety goes crazy all the time over every little thing. And but once in a while you're going to messages and it's just someone saying something really, really nice or like how it helped them or now they found their passion. And I've had students, they've written poems in response. That's just really cool. The one that just happened, this person is disabled and immunocompromised, and so they haven't left their home in a year, they said. Or this year. And the book, like, it just helped them pass the time, helped them feel like it. And that was a big deal to me. And they weren't necessarily able to buy it because they had borrowed it from a friend. and they were just saying thank you for writing it, you know. So I sent them a copy yesterday. So that kind of stuff feels cool.
Yeah. But now you can always say you caused people to burst into tears, and that's something, you know.
That is something.
It was either me or the Pinot Grigio, but it was something.
You know, when you were first on tour, or maybe in the initial phases of getting the book out there, did you get to meet anyone that you really admired or wanted to meet, another author?
Oh yeah, tons. I'm not easily the literary world starstruck or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But at the Penn Awards, I don't know who said it, but someone was like, "Oh my God, look behind you." And we turned around and it was like Zadie Smith was there. And I was like, oh my God, you know? Yeah. And I just remember thinking, I hope the back of my head looks really cool right now. And I didn't know her, you know, I don't know her. I didn't know her. I saw her like at the door and I was like, I don't know how to like do this, but I don't want her to leave. And I don't say something. I really love Zadie Smith, by the way, also, I guess it's like, if that's not clear. And then I had to like tap her like on the shoulder just a little bit, you know? And I felt like a huge intrusion, but I was like, I don't want to say Zadie or like Miss Smith or whatever. I tapped her a little bit and she turned around like, oh, hey, it's you. Like she did this, like, I thought that was such a nice thing. Like, I know you are, like that thing, you know? I mean, I'd won one of the awards, so like, but still, she made it like very nice. And then she started talking to me like she knew, like, oh, I gave your book to my brother and this whole thing. She's super cool. I took a picture and I was very, very like, I think she's such a dope person. She's so cool. So author-wise, that's probably like, there's only a couple of people that I would really like, you know, be like that about. And some of them I've even interacted with, and I still feel like with Roxane Gay, I still feel some measure of that, even though I've never met her in real life. But like her, when like if we interact on Twitter, I feel very, very humbled and like moved by that. There's tons though. I could go off for days. I met Deborah Eisenberg and we were like became friends, and that was like super cool. Yeah, like not exactly the same, but LeVar Burton was and I met him. I got a picture with him.
Oh, that's big.
Yeah, he hosted the book awards, and I got a picture with him too. So, but I also like even meeting people who like aren't as like have been in it as long. Meeting Carmen Maria Machado was huge for me.
Oh man, how was she? How was that interaction?
So she is so awesome. She's so funny and cool, and like, you know, like chill, you know. And she likes like dog stuff. So like, I've met a lot of people like that I respect already. They've also been cool in their life. So, and that goes with, I already rocked with Tommy Orange before he wrote my review, and then now we're cool. It's been lucky that way. But Zadie Smith is the one I brag about the most because it's like
that's a big one. And apparently, the back of your head looks great. So
maybe she's yeah.
That's great. We always love hearing that some of our favorite authors are just chill and really cool.
I've been so lucky because you hear so many horror stories. Yeah. I mean, I've been lucky so far. They've been very cool in my experience. And George, everyone knows George is like, I was like that. George is really the answer, but I've become cool with him now. But when I first met him, it was actually hard for me to even speak. And like, I wasn't funny. I was really weird and awkward. It was pretty bad. Very spaz-ish for like not for like a day or two, like probably a year and a half. And then like it affected my work in his class. I was so in my head about it. He's the most everything you've heard about him is again true. He's super awesome, super kind, super warm, super smart. Really good about talking about stories. A good line editor.
I think
nothing bad to say about it.
We talked to Chanel Benz, and she was saying some of the same things about George Sanders.
Chanel is awesome. Cuse Mob. We're all part of the Syracuse gang.
Yeah,
she is amazing. Yeah. How would you say that your reading life has changed since you became an author or published writer?
Now I read galleys that are given to me in advance.
So you get free books
exclusively. No. Prior to this, I was in MFA, so I felt my MFA is really like a under like estimated part of it is you're getting like a greatly curated reading list from a lot of different people. And I was introduced to poetry that way. I was reading a lot. I felt I've had to be a lot more intentional now about it, as well, especially regarding books that are given to me with the purpose of blurbing, which is just, to me, I love luster because I forget that totally as I'm reading it.
Yeah.
That's not always the case necessarily. Luster, I'm just like in it and I'm like, this book is awesome. I'm not thinking about anything else but that. Also wasn't thinking about that for Aftershocks. Aftershocks, I was just like, oh my God, like, especially as a Ghanaian, I was like, I've never felt this side of myself represented in a thing I've read ever. So I've been lucky in that sense. I also have like sort of this broad respect, or like, wow, you did that and you had to traverse whatever weirdness that it comes with the publishing space, and you still got your work out in the way I hope you seem that you wanted, and I respect that.
Some of the things maybe you've been reading or some of your favorites overall, do you think there's a book that you wish everyone would read?
Like in this moment right now, another book I had to blurb, but I mean it, and I said this already. It's Michael Denzel Smith's Stakes is High. It's really, 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 really about like right now. And I'm not usually one to like ever be like pushing like nonfiction. So this is like a different time for me, I guess. And I also don't subscribe to like the idea that because the world is such a dumpster fire now we should read nonfiction. I don't. It just happens that I think fiction does just as much of the important work as anything else. It just so happens that that particular book is essential to me in my mind right now. And then if I could make everyone read a book.
Think of this power that you have. Right?
It's just too much. It's just too much. I can't. I'm like trying to think of which of Toni Morrison's books it should be. Really.
Oh, yeah.
But honestly, though, even like a book like I'm going to like just cop out and not give good answers. Just say Stakes is High, I guess. That is such a good book, and everyone should read it. I'm not sure. I think it comes out very soon.
All of Toni Morrison too. Just
all of her.
Yeah.
Maybe like yeah. But if everyone read Sister Outsider, like if everyone, the whole world read Audre Lorde's, the world would for sure be a better place. Yeah, like for sure it'd be better in so many ways.
Well, the last thing we usually talk about in the podcast is our most current pop culture obsession. So do you have one that you'd be willing to share?
I really like Rami, the show on Hulu.
I've been hearing good things.
And I just listened to a podcast of him talking about his writing process. I'm also, we're adapting some of the book for TV. And I really liked hearing about his process in his writer's room. I play Overwatch on Xbox. That's like a video game. I was just talking on Twitter about how the community is often super, super horrendous. But if you find a good group to play with, they're okay.
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned adapting your show. What's new there? What's the latest that you can share?
Yeah. Isn't it funny I have all these things on hand? This is my desk, so I have it all here. You can't. I don't know if you can see it. This is like a bound copy of like the draft. It says it's the Finkelstein 5 in episode form. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say beyond that. I wrote it. We're trying to do a show using a lot of the stories.
We had so much fun chatting to you. I hope you had a good time.
No, of course, very fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate it. I hope you can stay well, and hopefully there are not too many people fighting over wearing masks over there in Iowa.
Well, there are, but we can. Yeah. It's
fine. We just don't go outside. It's fine.
One of the things I always love asking authors is about books they struggled with.
It's so fun because you hear all sorts of stories about, man,
Yes.
Schools can suck
Right?
at this stuff. Yeah.
But his in particular about Frankenstein and what you think it's going to be and then the
Yes.
reality of what it is.
Yes.
And he also hit on an important point that we've made, that some of these things are just introduced too early. That
Too early. Absolutely. Yeah. And he also made a great point, which we've heard from other authors as well, that if maybe he had just seen himself in some books too, that could have been
Yes.
huge. Could have been very helpful.
Absolutely.
He also said that he couldn't really, we asked him, like what made him think he could be a writer. And he said it was a big disconnect for a while, which I think we've heard from other authors too, because we sort of put authors up at like a distance and we only look at their finished works and don't really think about and talk about all the hard work they put in.
Yes. I also love that he is so real and vulnerable with his students and that they take advantage of that and do not hold back.
When I asked that, I thought for sure some of the students would be like, oh, I don't want to do that.
I think that's how I would
I
be
think
too.
me too. Yeah.
I'd be way too in my own head about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You'd be like, everything you write is brilliant.
And he said that some of the stuff is great, like on point, that he takes some of the criticism, which is fascinating to me. That's awesome.
I'm just very inspired by and impressed by the confidence of those students.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked the fans who burst into tears at the sight of him. And he liked to sort of, explain it away by talking about wine. I don't think that's the right explanation.
No.
I don't think so. I
No.
think he doesn't understand how cool he is, really.
Yeah. And the power that has to make someone burst into tears.
Exactly. That's a skill.
That
and a
is
power.
a skill. And I'm not going to say I wouldn't want it.
For sure. I want that ability.
Yeah. What a compliment.
And I
mean,
know, like,
in a
I don't know
certain
how
way.
And what do you do in that situation? Like, how do you react?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't know what happened? Did you hurt yourself?
Yeah.
That's where my mind would go.
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I would be super awkward.
Yes.
Sometimes also I have a really bad where I cry if other people cry. So then I could
Oh,
burst
God.
into
Oh,
tears
no.
and things.
Then
that would be,
it'll be all over.
yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be very weird. His whole description of meeting Zadie Smith and what do? You tap her on the shoulder? I was hoping the back of my head looked good.
And what do you call her?
Yes,
Zadie, Ms. Smith.
Oh,
Yeah.
So relatable. And amazing. That's how he took, because that's how I would feel too.
Yeah. Like, I love all the questions that we ask, but sometimes that brings out the best stories when you hear
Yes.
how they're just fans too. And they get real tongue-tied.
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved that too. We just checked in at the end on what's new and how he's adapting his book. He's adapting it. He showed us a
Right?
screenplay.
Yeah. Which that is going to make, it's going to be amazing.
Oh God.
I can't.
It's going to be so good.
So good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that was such a fun discussion. We will be back next Wednesday with our regular weekly themed episodes. And in the meantime, head to our website. You'll find all of them. You can listen to them now. This is a great time to listen while you're outdoors, social distancing, and you don't want to talk to the person that's trying to get too close to you. Listen to us and just be like, oh, sorry, I'm listening.
That's right.
I
this is happening.
something going
I got
on.
to see my headphones.
Yeah.
And my mask.
We are saving you.
Yes, absolutely. Like we said, this is a new series of bonus episodes we're providing. Check in. Have you seen them all? We had Mona Watt. We had Angie Kim. We had Alex Marzano-Lesnovich. We had Andrea Lawler. That's just a few.
And also, that's impressive, and I'm impressed with us.
Yeah.
We talked to some amazing people.
Julia Phillips.
Yeah.
Matthew Kaye.
Ugh.
Hallie.
And now Nana.
Yes.
Yeah.
Killer.
And we're all best friends with them now.
Yeah, clearly. That's what
Yeah.
we think. So obviously they do too.
Yes.
They should be getting our best friend necklaces in the mail this week.
We've started mass producing them so that they know. Yeah. So we've got tons to help you figure out what to read next and make you laugh. And hey, if we've done that, why don't you give us a review? Tell us how you like these interviews. Tell us how you like our weekly episodes as well.
If you've been listening to our regular themed episodes, you know we've taken some great listener ideas too. So if you have a theme suggestion or a challenge, send it our way.
You can find us in all the normal places, website, social media. We're not hiding.
Happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open, The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you... This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.